People's Democratic Party says it is determined to win the October 10, 2020 governorship election in Ondo State. The party's candidate, Eyitayo Jegede, a senior advocate of Nigeria, emerged the last man standing after initial hiccups that affected the party primaries. Having weathered the storm, Mr. Jegede has been on the campaign trail in the past couple of weeks, promising to work for a united base as he readies himself for another shot at the governorship of the state. Well, at this point, we would like to further explore what constitutes his dreams and aspirations for governance in Ondo State by talking to the man himself, Eyitayo Jegede, senior advocate of Nigeria. He's also a former Ondo State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice. Welcome to the program, Mr. Jegede. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Thank
Yes.
you very much.
Well,
Thank you.
Good to have you on the morning show. Very quickly, why should the people of Ondo State? Why should the people of Ondo State vote for you on October 10? What is that special thing that you are going to bring to the table that will move the state forward, or that will be different?
Well, first, we have a record of service. You rightly said that I was Attorney General for Ondo State for a period of about 7.5 years, almost 8 years, in the 2 terms of Dr. Segun Mimiko under the Labour Party, and eventually when Labour Party moved into the People's Democratic Party. I served diligently, I believe so. I have a record of private sector experience. I've been a legal practitioner all my life. I was a senior advocate. I've been a senior advocate of Nigeria for the past 11 years or thereabout. During my service as Attorney General of Ondo State, I had the privilege of being the chairman of body of Attorneys General for about 6.5 years. It's an informal body of all Attorneys General then in the Federation. And again, I had the privilege of serving in critical sectors of the administration of Dr. Segun Mimiko. I contested election in 2016. Annex said I lost. And I'm okay with that, because the people ordinarily will want to have an experience of Mr. Akeredolu. Then what we're bringing on board now is that we have divergent positions on a lot of things. While the APC government would love, as they have done, to come in when they came in and increase the tuition fees in all our tertiary institutions, we do not believe that should happen. I believe that the fees should be made affordable to all our students. I believe that Ondo State can afford that because it's been done before. I believe that we should bring down the fees. While the APC government believe that they should hike the medical fees that are payable in all our health institutions, I do not share that view. I believe that people should be the focus of government. And of course, those high fees in the name of IGR should come down, because access to Medicare should not be a function of internal generated revenue. Akeredolu's government believes, in his own view, that our pregnant women should pay high fees when they go to hospitals for delivery. I do not share that view. I believe our people who are pregnant, our women, should have access to free Medicare. In other words, there should be free maternal services. While Akeredolu government believes that the people out there do not really need help and that they can help themselves, we believe that we should be able to assist those who are in the business of commerce, those who are in the business of industries, for them to take off so that they can provide much-needed employment for our people. And all these and many others are what I believe should take us to the new destination we are all heading to on 10th of October. I believe that industries should be established by government and by private sector. I also believe that there should be infrastructure development in our state. I believe that the southern side of part of this country needs more attention. I believe that the seaports should be a major focus of the administration, not only in those states, but federal government. These are many more are the views that I hold, and confidently that to make our people make the right choice. Thank you very much.
Well, I hope that we'll interrogate these plans you have for the state later in the conversation, but I would like to touch on why you want to become governor. Why do you think that you stand a chance barely 4 years after you tried and you were trounced by the incumbent with almost 100,000 votes?
Almost, you said. Let me say this, and I have a sense of history, and I do believe that a lot of our people do have a sense of history. First, when I contested in 2016, we were involved in, trapped as it is, in an internal crisis of the People's Democratic Party. You recall there were two factions then, the McCarthy faction and the Sheriff faction. And that actually affected us. You know, I was running from one court to another until about 3 days to the election when I got a clean bill from the court that I'm eligible to contest. As at that time, my co-contender for that position as a candidate, Jimo Ibrahim, had already appointed all polling agents into 3,009 polling units in the entire state. And we came in struggling to make sure that we put things right. As at that time, I was also trapped in Abuja, attending courts, and also trying to ensure that I secure the much-needed victory to enable me to contest. When I came in, a lot of our people have almost lost hope in the fact that we could retrieve that. And you have a number of our party men jumping from the PDP and to align with our adversary. And a lot of politicians and the people took advantage of our absence and of the difficulty and challenges that we were facing then. It's all part of politics, and I have no regrets about it. There are things that happen normally. And since then, we've come a long way. First, before 2019, the APC had 3 senators and virtually all those members in the House of Reps. And when we came in 2019, and I tell you this, and I'm very frank about this, when we were contesting, when we were driving the vehicle of the PDP as a DG of Atiku campaign organization and being the arrowhead of that campaign organization, we tried our best and we came with the results. You said we were trounced. Again, we trounced them again in 2019. And the PDP secured more votes than the APC in the presidential election in Ondo State. In fact, more votes than all other states in the western part of the country. Secondly, we are the only states in the southwest that have 2 senators. As I speak with you, we have from Central, we have from South. And APC has 1. I do not know the relationship between the candidate, the APC senator and the present government. We have 2 House of Reps members. So I'm sure you know by this fact that we have moved on. We have moved on by getting focused on the people. And we have to be able to do this without the support of any sitting governor. When we defeated APC in 2019, APC controls the federal government. Akeredolu was also here, my learned brother Silk, as the governor of the state. In all the 18 local governments, APC was firmly in charge. But we still defeated them by the grace of God and the support of the people. So I'm sure you now see that we've made some progress. And those who want to be fair to us would credit us with some improvement in our standing since then. And politics is very dynamic. It's about movement. And we've been able to do this with the support of the people. So that clearly will tell you that not only do we have a chance, we're also focused on this and poised for victory by the grace of God. As I speak with you, we have the support of the people. We deal with issues. We don't deal with persons. And we believe that our people in Ondo State deserve a better deal than what they're having now. It's a lot of punishment being inflicted on the people of the state in the name of IGR. That is not fair. There should be access to education. There should be access to health. There should be infrastructure development.
Okay.
And our economy should grow. That is my personal belief, and that is the belief of the PDP.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Eyitayo. Eyitayo Jegede, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. I mean, when the governor was here, Akeredolu, he said glowing things about you. He said you're a good man. You know, said lots of lovely things about you. But he said it's not your time yet to be governor. That he too waited when it was Olusegun Mimiko's time to be governor, and he said it's not your time yet. So even now, it's not still your time. I want you to say something about that. Secondly, I want to ask you. You have just a minute. I'll just put one question in it. You have a lot of lofty, very socialist ideas. I like those ideas too. You want to do free maternal health care, education, and the likes. I'm happy about that. But let's not forget, we keep talking about free education in the Western region by Obafemi Awolowo, but it cost him about 1/3 of his budget. Have you calculated how much it will cost you to provide free maternal health care? And if you have, I want to know the numbers. I'm crazy about the numbers. And will your current IGR plus allocation, revenue allocation, be able to pay for it? And how will you pay for it, owing to the fact that you have existing loans? Your state just collected another one recently, I think about the 17th of June, collected another 3.4 billion in loans. So how would you pay for all of these things you said you're going to do?
We're coming in with honesty and transparency, and I think that is very important, very strategic to what we want to do. And I must thank my brother Silk, the governor of the state, Akeredolu, for those very kind and generous words. It's not everybody that is privileged to have those kind of words said in his favor. I must also thank the former governor for his own generous words too. He's told people that some of us have conquered greed and we're there for sacrifice. I'm a very simple person focused on working for the people of the state, believing that we should bring new dimensions into governance. Now, you have said that it's going to cost a lot of money to do free maternal services. Let me start from the point of view that it does not cost as much as you think or you imagined. It's been done before. I was Attorney General of the state for 7.5 years. The Mimiko administration had a policy in place. That policy was to provide free maternal services in some way for pregnant women. So it's not something that is from the blues. And it's a question of priority. You need to prioritize what you want to do for government. And those priorities will make you to identify what areas you want to concentrate on. And I've said my own. Other people can say their own. My concentration will be on education. It's going to be on health. And you said that Chief Awolowo spent about 1/3 of his budget on free education. I'm not talking about free education. I'm talking about reduced tuition fees. There's a difference between free education and reduced tuition fees in our universities. I have said, and I mean this, that a fee of 150,000, 250,000, 350,000 as against 35,000 that was being charged initially is too astronomical. And let me tell you this, we've talked about providing funds. And I'll say this with all sincerity of heart. When this administration, that's Akeredolu's administration, thought that they wanted to increase the fees, and it was because they reduced the subvention that goes to the universities. Now, if you reduce the subvention and you increase the fees, you're hoping that you'll be able to close the gap. In other words, what the university is losing by reduced subvention, they're going to gain by increased fees. But they did not take into account the simple logic of supply and demand. Once we increase the fees, less people will be able to pay, so that automatically again reduces the income of the universities. And when that happens, you find out that there's going to be a crisis. First of all, a lot of our university graduates, our students are now moving from our state-owned university to universities in Kogi State that are charging less amount of money. And by doing that, the income that should come to those universities from the plurality of the students does not come again. And you talked about being concerned about figures, there's nothing wrong with figures. Figures are also a function of income and expenditure. Figures are not static. Figures depends on how much you get and how much you get from federal allocation. Some of these things you don't have control over them, but government must be able to identify its priorities and save money. Nobody's going to spend, it's talked about Awolowo spending 1/3 of the income on education. That's free education, which we all enjoyed, and we give glory to God for it. If it is quite challenging now to say you're going to offer free education to every person at that tertiary level, and don't forget I'm talking about universities. Talking about university, and I said, look, those fees that are being charged are too high. We're going to bring them down. So when you talk about statistics, yes, statistics are good, but it's not going to be something that will affect the administration of Ondo State. I'm focused on providing access to education and access to Medicare. And I think the people are going to benefit from it. As far as I'm concerned, welfare of the people is the primary purpose of government. That does not mean that other sectors will suffer. But we'll be able to manage our funds, and we'll be able to do this honestly and transparently. We'll reduce areas of leakages. We'll also ensure that the money that we have that comes in, either through allocation or through IGR, are properly utilized for the people.
They said it's not your time yet. What's your reaction to that? That you should wait for your time?
No, well, with all due respect to Akeredolu, I think he's just playing politics. It's normal. Akeredolu contested with Dr. Mimiko before he won. As at that time, was he his own time? And when he contested and won, what is it? We've always had people contested from the North, Central, and South senatorial zones. And what I would plead with with Akeredolu is that he should please, since he has been tested for 4 years now, let the people also test us. And it's not a function of a governor determining whose time it is. It's the people that will decide that. And I think that is also very, it's something that should not be lost on all of us. The people of Ondo State will determine who will be the next governor of the state. It's not going to be the governor that will determine that. It's not going to be the APC. It's going to be the market women, the taxi drivers, the Okada riders, the students, the old women who are suffering, those pregnant women that we talked about, those university students who are there who have lost their chances of going to school. They are the people that are going to vote. It is not something that is written down. It's not a function of appointment. It's a function of election. And the people of Ondo State will decide. It does not lie in the province of the APC or the sitting governor to determine whose turn it is next. People try. He tried to get it at the first time. And when he did, he contested with Dr. Mimiko then, and Dr. Mimiko won. We had Dr. Agagu contested the first time. He didn't win. He tried again the second time, he won. Aketi contested the first time, he didn't win. The second time he tried, he won. I contested the first time, I didn't win. The second time, I'm also going to win, if you go by that logic. So I think he should just step aside and let people try, let the people, good people who do the trials, and see if we perform well, then they will return us. If we don't, then we also go. It's about democracy. If he's not done well, and I think he's tried his best, but it's not done enough, we should allow those who are ready to do the job to do it.
Well, very good response there, but to be fair to Governor Akeredolu, what he was talking about really is the principle of zoning, which he says is an unwritten rule. That somebody from your senatorial zone, that's Dr. Mimiko, was spent 8 years in office, 2 terms, and he is from the north. He has only spent 1 term. His own senatorial zone should also be allowed to complete 8 years. And then in 2023 or whenever the next election is, then somebody from your area can then come. And he thinks that you're a good man, you're a capable man. He was full of praises for you. But he was just saying, Ondo North should be allowed for now.
Mr. Akeredolu is also a very good man. He's a very, very frank man, very forthright in his beliefs. He's a man who is compelled by his convictions. And whatever you say of the governor, he says it the way it is. He's very frank. And he's well professionals. He's not sold to a lot of politics. He's also somebody that has a clear idea of what he wants to do. So you must give that to him also. But let me say this. I belong to the PDP family, and I'm sure we all know that. And I've always said this. In the history of PDP, since this new political democracy came in, the PDP had always produced its candidates from the southern zone. The first person to contest and to run for election was Dr. Agagu, and that was in 1999. He didn't make it. He waited for 4 years. He tried again. After the 4 years, he made it. The person that defeated him then was from the northern senatorial zone. And thereafter, he also contested again, also from the south. That's the 3 times from the south. Now, the 4th time was when I also had it was Olushola Oke, SAN, also from PDP then. also from the South. So you have those long line of candidates from the South contesting, and the people ultimately will have the choice. God will have the final say. And I say this quite frankly, that even on the basis of the entire political views of this, the market woman who desires to sell his wares does not care whether you are from the northern zone, central zone, or southern zone. Those students who are in school, who are now out of school, are not really moved by these rhetorics of central zone, southern zone, and the middle zone, or whatever zone you want to call it. It's not a function of zoning. It's a function of the electorate. And I think the earlier we do away with those ideas of zoning or no zoning, and this, you say, it's not in our rules. You say it's a convention. I do not know which convention. When Dr. Mimiko got the mandate from the court to be the governor of the state, it was not a function of zoning. When Baba Jashi won elections, when in the olden days of 79, it was not a function of zoning. When Agagu won election, it was on the merit because he was a minister. He was the head of the PDP at that time. He struggled for it. It was a function of zoning. It has never been a function of zoning for the market woman. It's not a function of zoning for the trader. And let me add this. Everybody talks about zone. Which zone now? We talked about Northern Senatorial Zone. It's meant for the Senate, It's meant for the Senate, for God's sake. Central Senatorial Zone is meant for the Senate, for God's sake. Southern is meant for the Senate, for God's sake. Why do you take what belongs to the Senate and bring it to the governorship? Senatorial zones already have their senatorial representatives. Each of those zones has a senator representing it. The territory and the constituency of the governor is the entire state. It runs from the south, from the top there to the below in the south. And the architects of our constitution have this in mind when they said your constituency is the entire state. It's not a particular area. And people talk about this. They also forget to talk about the old divisions. Old divisions are about 5. It's only the division which I belong to, Akeredolu. I've never tasted it. And I'm not using that as a criteria. No, certainly no. I'm saying this because all these arguments about senatorial zone has to do with Senate. The constituency of the governor is the entire state. And the earlier we realize that, the better. Those advanced democracies have family members who struggle to get in the position of the presidency, like Bush, for instance. Clinton tried it. And in some other states, we have had people coming from a particular locality getting into the office after a person from their own community has gotten there. The truth of it is that it's a function of what you can do. Otherwise, we don't need to campaign now. I don't have to go and campaign if it's my zone or if it's zone. And if it belongs to the northern zone, and then there's no need for the governor, with all due respect, to campaign. But I'm sure he also said this. He said these are the sentiments, and the sentiments favor him. I don't share that view. I think, again, it's a function of performance. And who the people want there. The electorate will have the final say, and I say this with all due respect to him.
Very good, very good. But quickly, let's talk about Ondo PDP. There was a big issue around your selection or your choice of a running mate. We were told that the leaders of the PDP in Ondo State had advised you to choose one of the other aspirants during the primaries, but that you ignored them and you chose someone else who is even currently a member of the House of Representatives. And that has led to some exits from the PDP in Ondo State. How are you managing that? Why did you choose this particular person, Boluga, Ikembolu, I think that's his name, as your deputy? Why did you ignore the advice of the leaders? And how has that affected the process?
Let me say this. First, it is not true. Not true that I ignore the advice of the leaders. And then every time people say this, I just laugh. Because the truth of it is that we are members of the same political family. And I'll start from the point of view of Boluga, and I'll come back to it later. Let me say this, that Dele Ikemboju Boluga is undisputedly a member of the People's Democratic Party. When the emotions rose and sentiments were brought in and they were talking about being the turn of a particular zone, we tried to educate our people about this same facts I've mentioned earlier on. First, that these senatorial zones that you talked about are for the Senate. Secondly, it's also a clever device by people who belong to our class, I mean the politicians, even though I don't know so much of politics, to attain power. Don't forget that when they started, the whole idea was that some people wanted to be governors, which is legitimate, and it's very fair. And after the primaries, and the delegates took a decision to cast their lot with me in majority, it's not as if others were not competent, or they were not politicians, or they're not clever. It's just that the people have a preference for my humble self, and I thank them for it. Now, after that, I'm expected to pick a running mate. And I tried. I had the option to do it 2 days after. But I waited. I waited to say, look, let's do more reconciliation and consultations. And in the process, I waited for a long time, and then had to consult with the spectrum of our party, the elders, a good number of party faithfuls, even those who are co-aspirants. And a lot of people are interested. And everybody wanted to work with Eyitayo Jegede, and I have no problems with that. Once you have this kind of interest coming up, it's just because people also see something that is of value in you. Everybody wanted to, a lot of people wanted, not everybody, a lot of people wanted to be running mates to myself, and I thank them for it. But ultimately, first, we must win this election. And God will help us. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm just human. I'm just a simple person. That among the variables that are there on the table, I have an option of picking one person. Boluga is a PDP member. Boluga is from the Southern Zone. Boluga is a member of the National Assembly as we speak. He won an election in 2 local governments. Boluga has paid his dues. He has stepped on a few toes. A lot of people like him. Some don't like him. But we must move on. And I just want our people to understand that for all of us to be able to do what we want to do, we must be able to work together as a family. Appointing a running mate is just one of the steps. And we've done this. And it's not true that I have a list of names. I don't claim to know all. I have a list of names from elders. I have a list of names from others who are interested. I have people talking to me on phone and also sending texts about what they think are the attributes of each and every one of them, and what will be likely consequences of appointing this or not appointing this person. And it's within the entire harvest of all these views together that I had to pick one person from the big list that was given to me. And I confirm to you today and to the entire public that Dele Kengboju Boluga was one of those that made that list for me to pick from. And for those who were not fortunate, I do sincerely apologize to them that it's only one office, one person will be there. If I picked from Group A, Group B and C will complain. If I pick from Group B, A and C will complain. If I pick from C, B and A will complain. But in all this, it's about the focus. It's not about names. It's about what we want to do for the people of Ondo State. And I am happy that we've done a lot of reconciliation. We cannot get it 100%. We try to speak to people. Some bought in, some did not. Others are not too sure. But all said and done, election is 30 days away. We need everybody's help to be able to get this. It's not going to be a function of PDP alone to get APC out of government. And with all due respect to my brother Akeredolu SAN, even in APC, we'll get some help from his own people that will help us to realize his ambition. In SDP, we'll get some help. In Labour, we'll get some help. In Zenith Labour, we'll get some help. In PDP, we expect to get a major help. In politics, you win some, you lose some. Cumulatively, it's the majority that takes a decision. And we'll do a good job. I want our people to trust us on this. There are other positions that are available to those who are complaining, and it's going to be a function of performance. There are various positions that can be effective, and they will drive this government to a successful destination.
Well, I guess you already answered my next question, because I was going to ask you if you're willing to form alliances and make some compromises, because as we know, elections are about the numbers. But let's go back to other plans you have for the Ondo people should you become the governor. Should you become the governor of the state, you will be inheriting a state that boasts of one of the biggest 10 IGRs in Nigeria. What would be your plan to drive in more investment? And I would also like to know, would you be probing the Akeredolu administration should you become governor?
Well, let me start from the last point you made, investors, and I think that's going to be our major focus. I'll tell you some of the experience I have. I come basically from the private sector before I got into public service. And in doing that, I know that the engine room of a lot of our development in the country is the private sector. The public sector also drives the governance of the state. So you need the cooperation of the two. The other point you made is still about, I will not go to this issue of probe or no probe. Look, this state must move on. And I really would want to focus on what I want to do for the development of the state. I want to create jobs. I want to ensure that we bring investors. And when you bring investors, you don't look at the investor's pocket about how much is he going to make for profit. You're going to look at what gains you have for the people. When an investor comes, he's not here because he loves your face. He's here because he wants to make money. And you must give that to him, that if he's investing, he must be able to recoup his investment. But he must pay his taxes. He must provide our young people with jobs. And that's going to be our yardstick for giving institutional support to all our investors. And we believe that we'll do it well. When I was in government, we drove, as it were, a lot of investments, ShopRite, for instance, and those small business outfits, and they proved to be a success. Now you ask me if I was going to probe or not probe any person. I really do not. I don't know what you want me to say to that. If I'm elected into office, I'm elected to perform a function, and I will leave it at that, please.
Right, sir. I just want to talk to you. Somebody just sent a message now. I think Olombe Akikwe said it's not true that Akeredolu government has stopped free maternal care. This is being managed through the Ondo State contributory health scheme. And secondly, I want to talk about the Mimiko factor in this election. Agbolaja, the deputy governor of the state, or the former now, I should say, has gone to the ZLP. And there's also, the strong factor of Mimiko in this election. Although Governor Akeredolu said it doesn't matter politically any longer. Is this somebody you like to bring into your fold, or you like to just go it square against ZLP, owing to the fact that they can split your vote if they get a certain level of followership too?
A lot of questions you have packed into one there. I'm having difficulty just trying to identify them, and I will try as much as possible. And I do hope I'll get it right. The first thing you said is about Mimiko's influence.
Yes.
In the polity.
Yes.
Look, we must all face reality, whether you like it or not. You don't have to like Dr. Mimiko's face or you hate him before you know that he's been a governor for 8 full years. And then you give it to him, politician and a leader in his own right. And he's also the leader of Zenith Labour Party. But I'll address this from the point of view of what were Dr. Mimiko's comments in 2016 about my humble self. Even when some of us are not too sold to politics, we're sold to service, not politics. And the politics, the way it's defined in Nigeria, is about how you're able to play tricks, how you're able to deceive people. And when you talk about, I don't like politicians, people say that. It's not because they don't like them, it's because they don't like their style. What I would say about this is that whatever you say, a person who had been a governor for 8 full years, a leader of a Labour Party, a leader of Zenith Labour Party, has his own defined influence, no doubt about that. Again, Mr. Akeredolu SAN is also a leader of the state. Even as we speak, he's been a governor for almost 4 years. He contested before now, so he has his own influence. Again, we have a lot of our leaders also who are very quiet. They are not people who are given to speaking every time, but in their own way, they also control part of the politics of the state. So I'll tell you that because of the way they have assessed us, because of what and I'll try to paraphrase this. The chairman of our party, former chairman, Faboyede, said at some of our functions that when they were asking Dr. Mimiko then, why was he supporting me from the central? And he said he told him that, look, Tayo, that's the way he calls me, Tayo has conquered greed. It's no longer about what you want to eat, but we must conquer greed. That Tayo is going to work for the state. Tayo is the person that can sacrifice for the state. Those very fine words and fine emotions and sentiments expressed by Dr. Mimiko were the same fine words expressed by my brother, my other brother, by the way, Akeredolu said, when he also said that, look, Tayo is a fine man, not fine in face, so fine because he has a pure heart. That's what I'm bringing on board. And I'll tell you this, all of us, we're going to work to bring in everybody on board. Even if Akeredolu himself is interested, I will seek his support. And publicly, I'm seeking his support so that we can get our states moving. Dr. Mimiko, again, I'm sure I've sought his support, and I will give it again so that we can keep our state moving. And I'm seeking the support of all our market women, support from our students, support from all the businessmen who are interested in the real growth of our economy in Ondo State to take us to the first 5 of the growing economies within Nigeria. It's going to be a tough job, and we need a lot of people to get this job done. It's a function of votes and people. So any person, and we keep on pleading, they should support us, not because of so much of Eyitayo Jegede as a person, but because of our dear state. And I know that we can only get this done through the support of the people. Now, you mentioned Zenith Labour. You also mentioned Excellency, the Deputy Governor is the Deputy Governor of APC government, but is now in Zenith Labour. And he's wearing 2 crowns, one in Zenith, one in APC. Look, he's also entitled to seek for the office, which is seeking. It's left for the people to judge. And people do a lot of calculation in politics. They'll say, look, it's going to split our votes in PDP. Don't forget that it belongs to the stock of the APC, body and soul. He holds a position in the APC government, body and soul. The truth of it is that he passed through the PDP. He was in PDP for 40 days or thereabout before he also chose to move on for reasons which are best known to him and which he's entitled to. I really don't want to discuss persons because they all have their good values. But the people, again, I will say, will be the final judge.
Well, SN, let me take you back to the point about Boluga, your running mate. You were quoted in one newspaper as saying, look, you would rather choose a running mate who will become deputy governor and will not give you problems from day one. What's your concern about the role of deputy governors, and what do you think we can do to prevent a situation whereby right from the first month or second month, they won't start quarreling with their principal? And what kind of guarantees do you have to think that, you know, if you win, you have Boluga Ikembuju as your deputy, you will not have any problems with him at all?
No, it is not true, again, that I said that I was looking for a deputy governor that would not create challenges for us. It is not true, and I don't know what source this is coming from.
Okay.
And like I said, I recall I said when I was campaigning, even for the candidature of the party, I said to our colleagues, my co-aspirants, and the people in PDP, and those who care to listen, that it is not enough for you to be a candidate of a party. Candidature is a stepping stone for the actual dream that you have for your state. And I said to them that, look, we're interested as a party in producing a governor because we know that there's need for us to have a new face in the government house that will do new things in the government house. I said also that every person who is a member of the party and who is qualified also has a legitimate right to aspire to become a running mate. I didn't say that I was looking for a deputy governor that will not give me problems. Only God will determine that, and I leave this entirely in the hands of God. But then I will say this, that we're interested in winning election. And I also know, as a matter of fact, and this does not need any special skill for any person to know, that there's always been a lot of challenges between the office of the governor and the office of the deputy governor. But this again depends on the individuals who are occupying such positions. Only God sees the heart of man. No matter how well you try, there's no magic in seeing the true construction of a man's heart in his face. You only see the face, you do not see the heart. But then you must move on. You must move on, and you must do what has to be done. And the office of the governor is the head. And people will say, in the palace, you can only have one king. You cannot have two kings. You have a lot of chiefs there, 6 of them, and there's a Yoruba song about that you don't have two kings. So the person who is in charge is the governor. And the person who is the running mate or the deputy governor is only a deputy. And the truth of it is that it's also a function of the Constitution. It depends on what role a deputy governor can play. If he has a special skill or competence in a particular field, there's nothing wrong in allowing such a person to also hold a field. But don't forget, and I think this is very important, that politicians have ambition. And a lot of driving factor in this is the office. Once you have a governor who is there, then you have a deputy. Don't forget that deputy also is interested in becoming a governor. And I think that those who are not able to manage their ambition, aspirations, will always have a challenge with their bosses. And that's all I can say about that. But having said that, it depends on individuals.
Okay.
And there's nothing anybody can do about it. It has to do with self-discipline. It's every person's value.
Just before we move on, I would like to just give you the reference from where you were quoted as having said what I quoted earlier. It's a piece by Eyitayo Johnson, Akure correspondent of Vanguard, in the Vanguard newspaper edition of July 29. And the story is titled, Ondo 2020, Jegede on collision course with party leaders over choice of deputy. So I've not seen anywhere where you refuted that, but it's good you have made this clarification on this program.
Let me...
Okay.
The Vanguard correspondent, what do you say his name is?
Eyitayo Johnson. Eyitayo Johnson is the name.
Ask him if you have
the story was published.
If you have ever spoken to me. No, it's okay. That's why I said that story is not correct. The Vanguard correspondent had never come to me to seek an interview.
Okay. Very quickly, I mean,
you've talked about... He has never called me to say, on phone, to say, I'm asking you these questions.
I'd have loved to get your thoughts on security in the States, as you've just recently launched the Amotekun, the Regional Security Network. Security. Your plans for security in the States, and what you think, because your party at the national level has expressed concerns about the timing of the launching of Amotekun. Do you share those sentiments, and what exactly gives you a sleepless night ahead of these elections? Very briefly, in 20 seconds, if you can, please.
I'll be very straight on this. Anything that is legitimately done to provide security for our people, I support it. I also do not support using such apparatus for political ends. The truth of it is that because of the nature of politics, and don't forget that we have experience. We have experience in Kogi State, we have experience in Osun State, and all of us are witnesses to this about what happened in the elections, where you have people importing violence. Few weeks ago, and I'm sure you also read this, it was something that was in the media about a former chairman, I think, yes, former chairman of APC, who went in the open to say that they're going to tear posters that I was complaining about tearing of posters that he hasn't seen anything yet. And he was referring to PDP and myself. And he mentioned things like federal might, mentioned other things like, what did he say? Something about AK-47. And I said, while we are going high, they are coming low. This 21st century, some people are still talking about still arrogating themselves the power to tear other people's posters, to inflict violence, to bring in... They even mentioned the name of a particular governor from a particular place, and they try to ascribe to that governor history of violence. And this is coming from the same APC which they belong to. We had experience in local government elections that PDP did not participate in for obvious reasons. And they said there, the elections, they were even snatching ballot boxes from themselves within the same political party, shooting guns in the same political party. PDP did not participate, and all we're preaching against is this violence. Look, those who are preaching violence, the person that was talking, walking up and down in all arrogance, saying that violence will come, they have federal might, AK-47, calling themselves militants. They also have wives, children. Would he like those violence to be inflicted on his own children that he had kept safe somewhere, or his own family? Why do people grandstand on things that are so demeaning? It gives people like us a lot of worry. And again, I said, this is why we're contesting for this post, so that you can bring some sanity into all this violence and those who believe that the only way to get to power is through violence. It cannot be. We're not going to move forward with such contenders whose only belief is about shooting guns, even with their level of education, even with their level of authority. These are people who have held public offices. These are people who have trust for the people. And these are leaders of a political party, preaching openly violence, preaching violence. And that is why people get worried about this attitude of bringing Amotekun at this point in time. But again, we believe that the security agencies are there. Security generally is a major issue. I went to one of our communities yesterday, and their complaint was about kidnapping. And I said, look, there must be community policing. The traditional institutions, our chiefs, our obas, should also be given responsibility. Identify those who are in town, those who came in new, those who are coming in new, those who move from one community to another. They should establish contacts with all the obas across the entire Ondo State and all the chiefs, so that they can have a clear picture of who are those who are there, what are they doing. And then you must also bring in security to these areas in Akoko North, Akoko Northwest, Akoko Northeast, and some other parts of the northern zone where these issues are prevalent. There's need to move in some military men there. Let's have a small military settlement. Let's have some police settlement there, so that they can contend with all these marauders who come to destroy the peace of our people. So caution, caution, caution is what I advocate in this issue of Amotekun.
Well, on that note, we would like to thank you very much, Eyitayo Jegede, SAN, gubernatorial candidate of the People's Democratic Party in Ondo State. And we wish you all the best with your campaigns and your ambition. And we hope that on October 10, there will be peace in Ondo State and there will be no violence. Thank you very much.